The all rookie results are in. How many votes did Mark Williams get? After that, we'll talk a little bit about Bryce McGowens and give you his player recap today on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
You're Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free. We're available anywhere you get your pods. That does include YouTube as well. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. That's a lot. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed, thanks to Game Time. Thanks to Doug as well, always helping out. That's Doug Branson. Find him on his Substack, everyhornetsboxscore.com. I'm Walker Mail. You can listen to me every weekday from 12 to 3 on WFNZ 92.7 FM. Doug gave a little wave for all you pod listeners instead of YouTube watchers. So yeah, it's I don't even know what that wave is, but I like it.
Well, it's a way because you're on. I'm on camera, but for those that only listen to the podcast and have never seen us on YouTube, I'm also in this like little tiny box.
How many people do you?
If I wave, I have to wave, close to my head. Anyway, go ahead.
I am interested. I wonder how many people have actually still never watched the YouTube channel, but have only listened to the pod. I wonder if, even if you've watched it once, that counts for me just in this question. I wonder how many people still do not know what we look like, except only for our one Twitter picture with our profile pic.
Well, we were pioneers. We went on YouTube prior to you joining the show, Walker. We went on YouTube prior to this entire network going to YouTube, and we used to do it once a week. We'd do a live show, and that was when I had short hair. So I like the idea of someone who watched us back then and then decided when we stopped doing that to just listen to us and have never come back. And they come back and they go, whoa, what year is it?
Let's get to 4,000 subscribers. We're close. We can do that. So if you have not gravitated over towards YouTube yet, do it. Watch the videos, give us a whole bunch of views, and give us a whole bunch of subscribers. We would greatly appreciate it. Let's talk a little bit about Mark Williams and his role in the all-rookie team voting results, where he finished here, Doug. Just to give people an idea, all-rookie first team, it included Paolo Banchero, Jalen Williams, Walker Kessler.
Hold on. Which Jalen Williams? Because there's two of them in Oklahoma City. Which one?
The good one? Yeah.
Oh, come on. They're both pretty good.
I do like Jalen with a Y. I do. If it was the all-charge team, then he would be getting a vote here.
But I don't know if you – I'm sorry to interrupt you again. I don't know if you saw, but Jalen Williams with a Y did get one first-place vote and got five second-team votes. But I have to imagine that was someone confused. They meant to vote for Jalen with an L and just got confused.
Because J-Dub and J-Will, it is not a good distinction of who is who. It is not. It's Jalen Williams, the amazing rookie season Jalen Williams, or the guy that had some nice moments this year, the other Jalen Williams. It's Jalen without the Y. Then it's Walker Kessler, Keegan Murray, Ben Mathurin. Those were the first place vote getters. Jaden Ivey, still a distant pretty big gap between him and Mathurin as far as the last guy out of the first team, first guy leading the second team. Second team includes Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, Jabari Smith Jr., Jeremy Sohan, and Tari Eason. Those were the first two. Mark Williams not included here, Doug. Mark Williams, he got 2 second-place votes and just 2 total points all around. So only 2 second-team votes. Maybe I shouldn't be surprised. Thought it was a little low, considering where his numbers match to some of the other guys that were included here. But I understand the total amount of games played is the thing holding him back. If he were to have had this production all throughout the season, or at least only missing maybe the first month, rather than seeing his real rotation debut on December 26th, and having played more than 43 games, which is what he logged this past season, then he would have been at least a second-team guy, in my opinion. But he wasn't, didn't play that many games, and that's why he only got 2 votes.
Yeah, you can see the rookie first team is full of guys who broke into lineups for teams that actually competed for some portion of the NBA season. Orlando, Oklahoma City, Utah, Sacramento, and Indiana. And then the all-rookie second team, and I don't know if they meant to do it like this. This is just how the vote shook out. But the all-rookie second team is filled with guys who got a ton of minutes on really bad teams that had nothing to play for. Detroit, Houston, San Antonio.
That is tank team personified. That is Detroit, Houston, and San Antonio represented. The only teams in the second team.
Yeah, and so Charlotte, I think, unfortunately for Mark, rode both of those waves. You know, they started out trying to be a team that was going to compete. Injuries got in the way, and then eventually they made their way slowly but surely into the same situation that Detroit, Houston, and San Antonio found themselves in from game one. And so I think, Mark Williams takes the brunt of that. So if you want to blame somebody, you can blame Steve Clifford. You could blame Mason Plumlee for not getting injured, right? I mean, a lot of this is circumstance. You know, if Mason Plumlee gets hurt, if Nick Richards comes in and is the Nick Richards that we had seen in previous seasons, then maybe Mark Williams gets the benefit of the doubt and they don't send him down to Greensboro and they say, all right, Mark, you're going to back up Mason now. But none of that happened. Nick Richards looked a lot better. Mason Plumlee stayed healthy and was, effective for what they were trying to do in that moment. And Mark Williams got some time to get some seasoning, get his legs under him. And then we saw some really good defensive stats, some good offensive stats as well, not overwhelming. When you look at, I don't know if you're interested in a little player comparison between Mark Williams and Jalen Duren when it comes to like per 36. So we take out the games played metric and we just look at how they would play, or even not even per 36. You could look at per 100 possessions. And these two guys are eerily close in terms of field goal percentage. Jalen Duren, 65%, Mark Williams, 64%. That neither of them shoot threes, so that you take that out. If you look at their free throw percentage, Mark Williams a lot better. I mean, almost 70%. Jalen Duren at 61% per 100 possessions. Rebounding, nearly identical at 17.3 for Duren, 17.5 for Mark. Jalen Duren gets a small nod on assists, but neither of them are doing that. It's the block number, though. 2.6 blocks per 100 possessions for Mark Williams, only 1.3 for Jalen Duren. So he gets the slight nod there on the defensive end of the floor. I would have loved to see both these guys in a Hornets uniform, but I think, both of them have some qualities where you go, all right, these two could compete with one another on down the line.
Well, yeah, and I'll give you another comparison here, Doug. I mean, Walker Kessler, if you want to look at some of the per 36 numbers there, defensively, they're going to favor Walker Kessler. But Mark Williams, to me, it's not like he would have had that same season. Kessler was really efficient. I mean, you look at him, 72% from the field this year. Crazy. His block numbers were great. I believe he was fourth in the league this year in total block shots, 2.3 per game. Defensively, still protecting the rim at a high level. I think offensively, if you were to compare Mark Williams and Walker Kessler, I like Mark's ceiling better than what Walker Kessler's is offensively, which I do think counts for something, especially if the rim deterrence is so very good already from a guy like Mark. If we're talking about his ability to possibly shoot threes, there's zero indication that Kessler can do that. He shot 52% from the free throw line. That's rounding up for Kessler in Utah. My whole point is, if you are to say one center projects for the better career going forward out of Jalen Duren, Walker Kessler, Mark Williams, the three guys we're going to think of, every team has a case for saying they grabbed the right guy. Now, Walker Kessler's in the lead right now. I don't want to get it twisted. Kessler had the best center year. The guy got immediate minutes. He was a legitimate factor defensively, was crazy good. One of the best rookie defensive years we've ever seen. But if you were asking, when it's all said and done with their careers, who could have the best one, you could convince me with either one of these guys at having the best career. And I still feel very good about the Mark Williams selection, despite Kessler and Duren also having solid rookie campaigns.
Totally. Among those three guys, I think that Mark Williams has the opportunity to ascend to a level where you go, wow, we did not expect that. Possibly. Yeah. I mean, he has some tools where you go, man, if he develops a three-point shot, all of a sudden sneak all-star bid, for 1 or 2 seasons isn't entirely out of the question. Whereas I think probably for Duren and maybe Kessler, although Kessler is so good on the defensive end that maybe, he could grab a sneak bid as well. but I think Mark is the leader in the clubhouse. The only thing I would say for Duren is that I just think his body projects as somebody. I could see, we talk a lot about, or we haven't talked a lot about it, but we did mention, how good Kevon Looney has been for the Warriors, even though they're about to get bounced. But in that previous series, he was so good for them. And I see Duren as having the better opportunity to play that kind of role for a really good playoff team than I do Mark Williams, just because of I haven't seen that physicality and toughness from Mark Williams yet. I'm leaving the door open that it could be possible down the line.
Yeah, I mean, you're hoping that. I mean, as far as the offense goes, right? Mark Williams has the best touch out of any of these guys as it currently stands, and so that I think that goes a long way. If it comes down to, hey, who do I think can score the most points? Is Mark might be the guy, and so that's pretty valuable still with the shooting at hand. We've seen the pick and pop, we've seen the free throw percentage. We're talking about the threes. That could go well. So yeah, it's all this to say, I understand why he didn't get a all rookie team nod. I'm not going to sit here on Locked On Hornets podcast, just like every Locked On fill in the blank host is going to do that for their rookie. I saw it all across the board.
I'll do it. This is outrageous. This is absurd. Look at the per 36 numbers. Look at the per 100%. I've got screen assist numbers for you.
If it wasn't for Steve Clifford, just play him, Steve. Are we doing this again? Not playing
rookies? Play the rookies.
Just play Mark Williams earlier, and he's going to get the all-rookie nod. Now he's affecting money. That's what's happening. All right, there's your outrage.
We needed some all-sophomore numbers because I think Mark, seriously, I think Mark has, if everybody stays healthy, now he's locked into the center position. There's not really going to be any competition for him next season because I think still, even if they strike it rich. By the way, we are less than a week. The next Wednesday, you view us, we will know where the Hornets are drafting, and we might be completely elated that they get the number 1 overall selection in Victor Wembanyama. But I don't think that affects Mark. I think you play both of those guys together because you don't want Victor Wembanyama banging down low every possession. You give some of that to Mark Williams. So I think he's locked in at center, and I think he has a real good opportunity if they had an all-sophomore team to be in that conversation.
I know we're over, but can you imagine? It would be the.
Can you imagine?
It would
That's
be
my
the
catchphrase, by the way. I'm trying to make it
wingspan.
happen. I don't know. Over the past weeks and months, I've been trying to make that happen. Can you imagine?
It's unbelievable. I still haven't been able to get the point out.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you imagine?
Can you imagine?
The wingspan between both of those guys on the floor, it's now lost all of its meaning, but it'd be crazy. Mark Williams, it's a good point. Wemby and Mark Williams, their wingspan, it would be the longest wingspan combined by two players to ever on an NBA roster, and they'd be here with Charlotte. It would be crazy. All right, coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
Can you imagine those huddles? Can you imagine the sideline huddles, both of them together? They would just surround the entire
Wemby
team
right now, putting his arms across everybody. All right, guys, we're going to go out there. Here's Mark Williams across, too.
You're not going to be able to, like Chris Paul will try to sneak in the huddle sometimes. You're not going to be able to do that with the Hornets if they got Wemby and Mark. They just surround the huddle like a force field.
They'd make the best security team ever. You put Mark on this tunnel, go like this, just spread his wings out. Same thing with Wemby. Nobody's getting through that, baby. Coming up next, we will recap another rookie that played for the team this past season, Bryce McGowens. Pleasant surprise. Maybe you did have high hopes. We'll talk about it in just a moment. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. It is the place for last-minute ticket deals, and you can forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more than that. The Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. And if you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Get images of your seat, too, before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Tickets are sent directly to your phone, so you never have to dig through your email. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Bryce McGowens coming up next. Locked On Hornets.
This is Locked On Hornets.
I'm a fantastic Googler. I'm bad at logging in. If they were to do sort of a scouting report of me and my ability to use the internet.
Todd.
Yeah,
excellent Googler, not a very good guy that's logging in. Very good at interrupting the host anytime he's trying to go on a rant.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Before we get to Bryce, I have an important question for you, Walker. We were just talking in the last segment.
Yes, I can imagine. Did I answer your question?
I'm trying to make my catchphrase happen. Can you imagine? So my question for you, because every good co-host needs a good catchphrase. But my question for you is on your WFNZ show. Is it Wes and Walker? Is that the name of the show? Just want to give you a plug there.
Mm-hmm.
Wes and Walker, gotcha. Do you have a catchphrase on your show?
You know, it's funny you mentioned this though. Like, really, I was thinking about this yesterday. I don't. I was thinking about the late and the great Jerry V, when everybody would say, throw him in the pool. That was Jerry V's thing, right? If something, throw him in the pool, get out of here. Wes is fire fizzle.
What pool? Did anyone ever ask him what pool?
Wait, yeah, it was legendary. It was throw him in the pool. You had a sound effect. They would have the splash. You could ask David. He knows about throwing guys in the pool if he didn't like you, if he thought that was a stupid joke that you said on the air, whatever. He would throw callers in the pool all the time. But Wes also had fire fizzle. Somebody came up to him.
Well, we were out but I think I helped him on that. I think he owes me a little bit of credit on that one.
But it's fire. Straight fire was on.
That was his. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. His was straight fire. I feel like he owes me like 50% of that. I came up with the fizzle part. I am the fizzle.
You came up with the fizzle part, the game that has been grabbed from this pod. But anyways, no, to answer your question, I don't. And but this, can you imagine? I don't think I've ever heard you say that until the last segment. This is
I say it all the time. I say it all the time. But you have to slowly introduce these. You can't force these things upon the listeners. But savvy listeners and viewers will know that I occasionally drop in. Look, it's one that you can't drop in when you're super sad about stuff. So it's been a tough, season to drop this in. But this is, we talk about the sickos. The sickos need the hope. And right now, Wemby is sitting there at number 1 overall, and we're waiting on this lottery to happen. And that's when you drop the, can you imagine?
I thought it was Stangen too. You have a lot that you try to work with. That's okay. Bryce McGowens. I'll ask you this. Let's just start off with a good old Stangen or Clangin, impromptu. Bryce McGowens, first year. Stangin' or clangin', Doug? You tell me. It's your catchphrase.
I think he was stanging. Just based on expectations, 2nd round pick. You're not expecting.
You look to the side. Who did you look to there? It's just someone that I imagine constantly that I have to convince of my arguments. Yeah.
I think he was staying based on the expectations. I didn't have a ton of expectations for him. I didn't think he would be able to even break into the rotation. Even after I saw him in Summer League, I thought, all right, this guy's got a little something, and maybe, a couple years down the line, we could be talking about him a little bit more. But I thought first year he was able to, now injuries, of course, played a role, but I thought he did endear himself to Steve Clifford, who thought he was a really smart player, has the size, a lot of the same words he used about Dwayne Bacon. And so we know how this story could end. But I think Bryce is going to figure it out a little bit better than Dwayne Bacon did. I thought his calling card.
Yeah, that makes me shiver. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. His calling card coming out of college was shooting. We didn't see that as much consistently. The shot looks good. It just didn't go in a lot. But we did see his ability to put his head down and his athleticism in terms of getting to the rim and being able to finish through contact. We saw a lot of that. Defensively, he surprised me. I thought he did a little bit more than I expected from him defensively. And, he was able, I thought, to positively impact games even if the offense wasn't looking to him. And when he was playing with Terry Rozier and Kelly Oubre, they were not looking to pass to Bryce McGowens. So, but he was still able to be on the floor and be effective, even though that wasn't happening.
Well, no, I mean, McGowens, the shooting, the free throw line shooting, that was like, because his shooting was pretty bad at Nebraska. It was real bad. He's been an inefficient player the last couple of seasons, but the aggression has been what has allowed you to say, okay, this guy could be an NBA player with the 6'7" athleticism. He got to the foul line coming out of Nebraska, over 6 attempts per game he shot from the charity stripe. And so if he shot 83% from the free throw line, you're hoping that 3-point percentage can go up this year. He only shot 27 on 4 attempts per game in Nebraska too. So like you're hoping the shooting can come along. Really, Doug, we're just looking for an efficient player at some point, right? Like, yes, you can be the microwave scorer. If you're not efficient overall, like you can still come in and be the microwave that maybe, isn't phenomenal. Okay, you can count on him, shooting 45 from the field, 37 from 3. But like it needs to happen at a better rate than it happened this year. But you're right. You saw flashes. Like, yeah, I'm completely in agreement with you. Absolutely staying, won over a Steve Clifford. It's hard, right, to win over a Steve Clifford as a rookie. And he did that in his debut in the NBA.
Here's what I would ask people who watch this team consistently through the year and got a chance to get a good look at Bryce McGowens. How many times did you see Bryce McGowens take a shot this season, regardless of whether it went in or not? Okay, take that out of the equation. How many times did you see Bryce McGowens take a shot where you went, what are you doing taking that shot? Like, that's not your shot. It's the I think I actually
we saw it a lot in Summer League, I will say. Summer League was real bad, but you're right.
That's what Summer League is for. I mean, they talk about Kai Jones, right? Like, Kai Jones took 10 threes. He attempted 10 threes in a Summer League game, okay? I think that was Summer League game number 1. He took 10 threes. That's what Summer League is for. But when he got to the big boy show, he put on his big boy pants and took shots that you go, okay, yeah, that's your shot. That was a good opportunity. And when he didn't have good looks, he passed the ball. And I think that's what you're looking for from the second-round pick, trying to break into the rotation.
Yeah, he finished the year strong, too. And maybe somebody we didn't talk about nearly as much finishing so strong because we had fun with SU Svi. James Bouknight was stealing some of those headlines as well. And Bryce McGowens had just already been a part of the consciousness as a Hornets fan. He actually appeared in more games than Mark Williams did this year. McGowens appeared in 46 contests over the course of the season. And, look, I'll go with some arbitrary game spans here. But if you want to go to the last 3 games he played, he logged 20 points, 16, 22, 50% shooting. 3 points still wasn't working. But he got to the line 7 attempts per game, Doug, in the last 3. You can even extend that a little bit more. He had 6 attempts in the back-to-back games against Toronto to close out the year. He had 6 attempts against OKC in 23 minutes on the road, that last win against OKC that they had when they won by 3. McGowens, that's the nice thing. If overall he's not shooting well from the field, which is very possible given what he did at Nebraska and here, he can make up for it a lot by just getting to the line, putting his head down and saying, bleep you, I'm going to get these foul shots, which is how he plays. That is an awesome little thing to go to the bench to and say, okay, we need some easy buckets. Bryce, just get in the paint and see if you can get fouled.
Well, and part of the reason that James Bouknight couldn't get back into the rotation was because of Bryce McGowens. Here's what Steve Clifford said about Bryce McGowens on January 18th. Quote, his strength to me is his offense. He has very good IQ, good size. He's crushing the G League. He's not just playing well. Of all the guys that have gone down there, he's been the one that if you watch him play, he's been terrific, unquote. So there's Steve Clifford giving you a little insight into, the team does watch the G League. They do watch these performances. And while those performances don't directly translate to like NBA success, you don't look at a guy who's scoring like 30 plus in the G League and go, okay, he's going to score 30 plus in the NBA. They are looking at it and saying, hey, how are you performing down there? And you mentioned it in our James Bouknight review. Bouknight wasn't exactly lighting up the G League, but Bryce was. And when there was an opportunity after James Bouknight got that early look, when there was another opportunity at the wing, they went to Bryce McGowens, and I think there was a reason for that. Bryce McGowens did show an ability to draw contact those are the kind of smart opportunities. Getting to the free throw line where you can be a little bit more efficient, even though he struggled from the line at times this season. He was able to get there, and that's something they're going to look for LaMelo Ball to do more of, but they've got a guy in Bryce McGowens that in the future, that, to me, he showed so many moves, such a versatility of offensive moves that I'm like, man, it just doesn't seem like this guy won't be able to figure it out. Now, I don't know if he's going to be like, an all-star at some point. I think that's a long shot. But I think he's got to be able to be a guy that figures it out and gets to a rotation place with a team that's actually competing, because he just has such a variety of ways to get open looks for himself on offense.
Yeah, and maybe his vision isn't great right now, but I trust him with the basketball in his hands, like you mentioned. He can actually get to the rim too. It's not that he's just being aggressive. We use that word too much. I'm a big offender of it. Just equating aggression to getting to the free throw line.
Your catchphrase?
Be aggressive. Yeah, I know that's okay. High school cheerleaders have had that for a while, so I'm not going to steal that from him. Bryce McGowens, he can get to the rim though. He's athletic. I trust him with the basketball in his hands. We just had this conversation with James Booknight where he'll have some veteran tap the basketball loose and he has a high turnover percentage, right? You don't have that same feeling with Bryce McGowens when he's got the basketball and he makes the move. I feel comfortable that he's going to get to his spot. And so that's what I like. By the way, OKC, he shot 6 3-pointers, not free throw attempts. Just wanted to clear that up. But the last 4 games.
That could be your catchphrase. You love to do a little house cleaning on a show.
I do. Just want to make sure that you seem
sure
to be more motivated to have a You seem to be more motivated to give me a catchphrase right now than I do. Just whatever.
Hey, going back to your point of him being able to draw fouls. You know what was the most impressive thing that Bryce McGowens did for me all season? It was in a loss to the Toronto Raptors late into the season when Toronto, they weren't playing like full steam ahead, but they still had some guys out there, including Pascal Siakam. And in the first quarter, I want to say of the second game against Toronto, because they played back-to-back against Toronto, McGowens, in a game where he scored a career-high 20 points, in the first quarter, drew like back-to-back fouls against Siakam. And that changed the way Toronto had to play. We talk about drawing fouls too often. I think we talk about guys drawing fouls so that they can go to the free throw line and score efficient points. And while that's important, if you're a player on the wing and you can draw fouls against other teams' best offensive wing, that's super, super valuable. And, if Bryce can continue to do that and improve his passing this summer, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that by the end of next season, Bryce has a role within this rotation.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. I absolutely see that. Steve Clifford loved him. He talked about it. I had that sit-down interview. He said he was a nice surprise, and he's excited to see what this offseason can bring to the second-round pick this past season for the Charlotte Hornets. All right, let's move on to the last segment. Hey, that could be my catchphrase. Let's move on to the last segment. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast. Hey, there's another entry there. We're going to talk a little bit more from the Sicko Satchel. We have so much more. We have so many more questions. 27th overall pick. Who could the Hornets take with that spot? We'll talk about that. Last one coming up next. Locked On Hornets.
This is Locked On Hornets.
Now that we have this question, I feel like I need to ask this. Mm-hmm. Are y'all sweet potato pie folks or you pumpkin pie folks?
Pumpkin pie folks.
Sweet potato folk.
Pumpkin pie.
Sweet potato.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Let's go to the Sicko Satchel. We've been going to this satchel the last few episodes. You can tweet at us at Walker Mail, at Doug Branson LOH, but really the YouTube comments, if you want to get the most notices there, make sure you write into the YouTube comments.
Yeah, I'm not checking the Twitter as often. I don't know about you. I'm not checking the Twitter as often. I like to be on YouTube because that's where people watch us. We don't broadcast on Twitter. We broadcast on YouTube. That's where we rack up the views. On YouTube, there's a little community tab, and on that community tab, we can post whatever we want there. And so that's where you can join in on the Sicko Satchel. There's a post up there already, but then I think closer to the end of the week, I'm going to do another all call for Sicko Satchel requests as we get closer to this NBA lottery.
All right, let's go with the first question here. Scout writes in a simple one about the 27th overall pick. Who should the Hornets take? Doug, do you have any prospects there late in the first round who the Charlotte Hornets could possibly select?
I struggle to answer this question because I don't think they're going to make this pick. Like, I think this pick gets traded. I've lost all trust that when the Charlotte Hornets own 2 first-round picks, that they will actually make both picks, because they're really still in a similar situation that they were in last year, where they do have a lot of young players who they're trying to find spots in the rotation for. But one wonders, how much patience they have left for Book Knight or Kai Jones. Could that present an opportunity if they find a player that they really like at 27 to make that happen? Or, do you take a big swing on a guy like Amani Bates, who was supposed to be, the second coming of Kevin Durant when he was 15 years old? But, I think a lot of people in the media got a little ahead of themselves. And, he's an interesting prospect, but it's all offense. It's zero defense. And even the offense, there have been signs that the ceiling is fast approaching on what Amani Bates can do. I think people are more excited about the hype around him, the hype that was previously around him, than they are being very realistic about what he can actually do and how he could develop. Look, if somebody like Gigi Jackson falls all the way to 27, although again, every time I say it, I think there's no way Gigi Jackson is going to fall all the way to 27. But if he does, then I think you have to be a little bit more serious about making that pick. I don't know. Who are some guys you like?
Well, if we just want to stick with the ACC, I think we're about 45 days away from the draft, though, right? So we're within a week's worth of time to get to the lottery. I think like 45, something in that range before we get to the draft. So we're really going to start digging deep here with some of these prospects because, Doug, we really have to go all across the board this year, right? You have a possible chance at getting number 1. We'll see if you're at 4, then you have a 7 prospect range that you could be choosing from. So we have to make sure we know what we're talking about there. And then even further down, if the Hornets trade that pick, but still they could be using it, selecting there, and we'll have to know. So we really got to, go all across the board here. If we want to stick with the ACC, what I watched most this season, obviously covering it, I think Terquavion Smith is a bet worth taking at 27. Backcourt help, 6'4", had a really nice freshman season, shot better his freshman season than he did this past year, but crazy athletic. You talk about getting to the rim. Terquavion could do that in spades, man. 18 points per game this past year, went crazy cold. I mean, there was about a month's worth of time where he just couldn't hit a shot, and it was real bad. Jarkel Joyner actually just worked out with the Charlotte Hornets in one of the pre-draft workouts that the Hornets are starting to host now. Jarkel was a guy that was better than Terquavion in those moments. But the athleticism, the tools, I thought Terquavion was actually rising up draft boards his freshman year, decides to come back to NC State, doesn't really help him. But in that range, man, especially if James Bouknight doesn't work out, I like Terquavion. I would have no problem having that bet at 27. A little, early, and the risk gets bigger, right? But late in the first round, you draft ability. I love what Terquavion could bring.
The Hornets also worked out Amani Bates in their second workout. Yeah. They haven't had many, by the way, big names in these workouts. You mentioned Joyner in the first workout. I mean, Jake Stevens is a monster of a man, a center from Chattanooga. It's kind of a name that I recall. And then Jalen Slauson, the big tourney guy from Furman, they had him in the second workout that they did on May 6th. But I think some of the bigger names, after they find out where they're actually going to be drafting, you'll see some of these names that are more associated with, your Jarris Walkers, I'll be interested to see if the Thompson twins do individual workouts. I mean, I feel like they kind of have to, but we'll see there. And then we've got the Combine, which Wembanyama has already said he's not going to participate in. That starts, I think, the 15th through the 21st. So the Combine will be going on. We'll get some measurements on some different guys, but Wembanyama, he knows where he's going. No need to go to the Combine for that guy. But we'll start to see a lot of, because I think a lot of these guys are going to go. I don't think this is going to be a Combine where guys skip out, because the lottery is a little bit more competitive this year. I think it's less. There's a lot of talent, but I think it's less locked in. 3 through 8.
Yeah, there's going to be a little range there, right? Like it was funny because we thought it was going to be pretty cemented how it was going to go, and then we started to get Brandon Miller over Scoot decisions, and then so we'll see how it all plays at the top of the draft. I'll give you one more name real quickly: Trace Jackson Davis out of Indiana. He's PJ Washington like.
Of course, Indiana homer. This is your thing. You're talking about catchphrase. Well, your catchphrase should be "I love Indiana." I love Indiana. That's your catchphrase.
Just went off there.
Give me some corn. I love Indiana.
Yeah, I've got some family that went to IU, but I've got some family that went to Purdue as well. So we're a house split. We have the license plate that's dipped up in a couple. No, Trace Jackson Davis is small ball 5, knows how to play, scored 21 points per game this past year for IU. So was really effective around the rim. Also great block percentage for only being 6'9". It could be a really good defender. I think can also help out on the perimeter. One of those where, okay, even if you have a PJ and you sign him to a big contract, even if you bring back Miles Bridges, who we often discussed, maybe you're redundant there. If you are going to be redundant or have a lot of different players at one specific archetype, then it would be guys that can be versatile across your front line. So Trace Jackson Davis would be interesting there as well for me, but we'll have plenty of draft talk leading up to the draft. And the lottery, Doug, should we do something special for that? Should we go live during the lottery? I don't know. We can talk about it.
I like how you're thinking, and I kind of agree. I think people should be – the sickos demand it, I feel like. Because they're either going to be, slurping on our excitement or they're going to be slurping on our sadness. And I think either way. Yeah. But all I have to say about it, if we do a live show, okay? If we do a live show and the Hornets – they pull the ping pong ball out and they show it. Or they don't really show the ping pong ball, right? They show their little cards. They flip the card and the Charlotte Hornets logo. I mean, really, even before we get there, if they show 4 and it's not the Hornets,
that's when it gets real.
Yeah, that's when it gets real. Can you imagine how we'd be on that live show? I can't.
All right. Thanks for making Locked On Hornets your first listen today. Make your second listen game to game NBA. Every moment, every top performance, every result. Locked On Game to Game covers every game from across the league with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. Follow Game to Game on Locked On NBA, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. Have a great rest of your day. We'll be back with you tomorrow.